I've known many people in my life that have had vices like drinking, smoking, drug taking, porn, video games, you name it. I believe that we all know at least one person that has a vice. When you are a spectator, it's easy to judge them and ask yourself, why don't they just stop degrading their body and their mind? But when you're living with the weight of your vice and you're not able to put a stop to it, you can empathize with this type of people and somehow normalize their bad habits, because that's what you've done with your own bad habits. I've been addicted to many things in my life, and smoking is one of the most destructive and senseless vices out there. We initially start by being pressured to do it by our friends, and when we least expect it, we buy our own cigarettes. Then we think we look cool smoking in front of people. We don't even ask why it is such an awesome thing to fill our lungs with trash, but we still do it just to fit in. Then we learn about the negative health effects of smoking and we try to decrease our tobacco intake, but it's too late. We've been hooked. We cannot help but smoke to pass the time, to greet friends, to take a break, or to socialize. Smoking is part of our culture, or at least is part of my friend group culture, and I cannot run away from it, which is crazy because you become the 5 people that you hang out with, and all my close friends smoke, so I'm screwed. I'll leave that to my future self to decide, but I know what you guys are thinking. Anyways, I decided to break the habit for 30 days to prove to myself that I can be healthier, and to my surprise, the first week was actually easy to leave it. I've been a recurrent smoker for years, but that doesn't mean that I smoke every day. It just means that whenever I get the urge to do it, I do. And all these years, the time that I felt the most the urge to smoke was when I was hanging out with friends. It can be the most basic and short hangout, but I always want to light one up, and so do my friends. Last year, however, I decided to start smoking whenever I felt stressed or depressed or distressed for the purpose of clearing my head up, and that was actually a mistake. As I'm sure that almost everyone knows, smoking makes you more anxious and depletes your cardiovascular health. It's just a destructive decision, and in my opinion, smoking just means not loving myself enough. So deep in my heart, that is where I feel the conflict the most. Last month, I tried to quit while also starting a new mountain biking habit, and that lasted 2 weeks, but it tragically ended with me smoking 20 cigarettes in the span of 2 days. A very bad outcome if you ask me. I don't feel proud about it. That's why I started this challenge, but committed from day one to stick with it for 30 days to jumpstart a healthier life. After all, I'm still 28 and I'm still young somehow, but like they say, shrimp that falls asleep gets taken away by the current, or even better, you snooze, you lose. So like I said earlier, the first week was easy peasy. The problem started the second week when motivation started depleting and you start depending solely on discipline to stick to your plan. However, discipline sometimes doesn't cut it for many reasons. Don't ask me why, but leaving spare cigarettes in my drawer made me crave them less. Since I have access to them anytime I want, the urge to go buy them went down, and so did the urge to smoke them. After some research, I couldn't find out why keeping spare cigarettes in my bedroom partially solved the problem of craving them. But I found out that craving instant pleasure is a defense mechanism that our minds execute whenever we feel threatened or uncomfortable. And since that knowledge came to mind, I started looking at the vices of my life differently. Suddenly, I realized a lot of doom scrolling started whenever I felt stuck at writing, at learning something, or more generally at solving a problem. So I quickly discovered that the key is to be aware of your emotions of frustration and fear of failure, because at least for me, that is when I mostly feel the urge to doom scroll, to watch porn, or to smoke. But I haven't felt the urge to smoke. Why is that? Well, the urge mostly comes when I'm with friends drinking or at a party. So that's when I discovered that I feel the need to smoke the most when I'm uncomfortable in social situations. This discomfort can come from social anxiety, like not knowing what to talk about, fear of looking like a loser, of being rejected, of not being enough, and many other insecurities. So that's when it clicked. What seems to trigger most of my urges to indulge in useless and mostly negative activities is negative feelings like frustration, fear, or anxiety. As simple as this sounds, most of my life I've not been aware of this simple fact. And it makes sense. When you're feeling a negative emotion, you want to feel good again. And what instantly makes you feel good again is scrolling on TikTok, watching porn, smoking, any activity that brings you dopamine. For some people that might be more destructive, like drinking, overeating, or heavy drug taking. For me, specifically in the context of social situations, it is smoking. That's why we're addicts, because most of these activities are very cheap and instantly available to everybody. But the main reason is that they give you instant happiness. So with that knowledge, my second and third week were somehow easier, knowing that I could just focus on being aware of my negative emotions and deciding to choose a healthier way of coping with them. Sometimes I ride bicycles, sometimes I put a stop alarm to my scrolling, and other times I simply start playing piano, writing, or reading a book. But boy, things have changed when I went out with my friends to a party. I don't really know about you, but when I go out, there's always drinking and smoking involved. There's also dancing involved, and almost always there's somebody smoking beside you. Well, especially because that's my friend group. And in that little moment, you just think, what's so bad about having a little sip of cigarette right now? now. For me, this specific circumstance is what makes leaving smoking so difficult. You're trying to be healthy, but then people beside you are doing the exact same thing that you're trying to get rid of. And they are your friends, you're having fun, and you respect them. So is it that bad to have just one cigarette? Is it that bad watching one more corn video and masturbating? Is it that bad skipping exercise for just one day? Well, you guys probably don't know this, but I've been living my whole 20s going back and forth, quitting and then coming back, doing exercise and then stopping, working on my dreams and then stalling them, quitting corn, and whenever I feel like my life is going somewhere, I watch it just for the fun of it and get stuck in the same cycle again. But then I ask myself, what about the anger that I had inside, the discomfort, the bullshit that I have to live with through years, feeling like I had to accommodate to this life instead of me deciding my own future, having to deal with people and situations that I don't really want to deal with, living in the same shitty situation for years with no change in sight. Aren't you tired? Aren't you ambitious? Don't you want a better life? Don't you know that you're already living the life that you chose through the years? Life right now is a result of all the decisions that you made. That's what I'll be telling myself whenever I feel lazy, distracted, or tempted by this bullcrap. Literally, all it takes to change your life is to be mentally tough. If you're mentally tough, you'll be able to achieve your freedom, your potential, your money, outwork everyone else, and be able to be in charge of your own show. So, what difference does one more cigarette make? Well, it makes all the difference. And that's what went through my mind in a split of a second, and so I decided not to smoke that day. It was hard because I was constantly exposed to it, but I did it. And so my final week, I decided to double down on my biking habit and just try a little bit harder. And so now I'm here, looking the same but feeling the battle going on under my skin and in my brain, asking myself, why don't you just watch this girl on Instagram, or just go scroll some TikToks, or just watch a compilation of fails to laugh a little, to pass the time? Well, to be able to change your life, you require change of your habits. I'm not cutting it completely from my life because that's completely impossible, but I try to be a lot more mindful of what content I am consuming from social media and to limit a lot the time that I pass on social media and instead try to read a book. It's an ongoing battle, but one that we can certainly win day by day. And so every day I keep strengthening my desire to achieve success and be better. If I'm being completely honest, I'm kind of sad that I wasn't able to achieve all this before I turned 28 years old. And I'm kind of jealous of all you young people watching this. I find it so awesome that there's a lot of people just like myself trying to condense their life experience into a video and try to help people with it. And just know that if you're in your 20s, and even if you are 30, 40, 50, 60, it doesn't matter. You have time, which is the most valuable asset that you'll ever have. If you decide to make the most of your time, not learning activities that you don't want to learn, not spending time in activities that you don't want to spend time with, but really spending time experimenting and understanding what you truly want out of this life, what skills, what values, what life experiences you want, you'll be ahead of 99% of people in this whole world. That's a whole other video though, I will make that soon. But hell, you shouldn't feel regret about anything in your life, because once you overcome your own traumas and shortcomings, then you look back and know in your heart that you were the one that changed everything for yourself and by yourself. Remember guys, life is made out of habits, and the sooner that you realize this, the faster you'll be able to redirect its trajectory towards what you truly want and value. And I'll end this video by saying goodbye to cigarettes and goodbye to my bad habits. That's gonna be all, and have a nice one. Bye.